Good morning, everyone. And you should say is GM, I know, but I'm a little bit traditional in that way, so I'll say good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me here to BlockStart. Actually, my third time in Glasgow, so starting to feel like a home place. Not really. Still have a hard time understanding the Scottish accent, so when you speak to me, speak a little bit slowly, and I'll pick it up. I'm from Sweden, by the way, so raise your hand if you have a hard time picking up my accent, and I'll speak slowly. I will now give you an overview of a sector that is called DePIN. I only have 20 minutes, so I warn you, there will be some fast transitioning of slides. I'm happy to talk about this more in the pauses. So let's define the area of DePIN. So DePIN stands for, it's an abbreviation for Decentralized Physical Infrastructure. And if you haven't heard about it before, it's sort of strange because it's one of the, I would say, evolving areas in crypto at the moment. The word DePIN hasn't been around for too long. I can't say an exact date, but we're talking about 1 year, 1.5 years or so. But we see loads of DePIN projects now, and everything in crypto is about cycles. I'm very biased, but I believe that DePIN might fuel the next cycle. We've seen NFTs, we've seen DeFi, etc., etc. But what I believe as DePIN is most likely going to be like the power that is fueling the next cycle. Because DePIN is all about infrastructure, and now we are linking the real world to the crypto and bringing even more users in. Users that don't ever have installed a wallet, they don't care about crypto. But what they do care about is getting rewards for the assets they already own. That's DePIN. And it's quite simple. We tokenize and we get rewards on a chain. And the original DePIN project, and we can argue about this, and I'm very... Some people say that Bitcoin is the original DePIN project, then we don't agree. I would say that Helium is most likely the first DePIN project which succeeded with their business model. So Helium started a network of IoT miners. So there are, at their peak, they had almost 1 million hotspots running all over the world. And they were able to build this because of giving out tokens in rewards for building the network. And I would say this is a quote taken from EV3. They have actually a really good DePIN report, so you're able to read up on this sector from a couple of investors. EV3 is very heavily invested in this area. And what matters here, which I believe is very important, is that a DePIN project isn't really a DePIN project if it doesn't have any revenue in the demand side. And what I mean with that is that we are actually bringing fiat into the crypto sector. So this could be whatever. I'm personally working in the energy sector, and in a few slides we'll talk more about that. But it could be whatever. IoT and mobile are two things. I would say that we can probably link more or less anything that is not on-chain and call it a DePIN project if you do it in a proper way. And yeah, there's lots of text here, and we won't be able to dive into all the details, but the interesting part of building a DePIN project or using tokens for incentives is that you're able to build the network before you have the demand side. if you start a traditional company and say that, okay, I want to connect X number of homes with my new gateway, or I want to build an IoT network, I want to build a mobile network, or I want to build whatever. Yeah, you can start by going to a VC, get loads of money, employ salespeople, and make a really good deal, make ads, and burn money, and obviously you will be able to do it in that way as well. But if you're having a DePIN project, you can actually incentivize people. They buy their own hardware. And the community, which was the topic of the first discussion, is actually doing the sales themselves because they have an incentive of bringing more people into the network. And the network is the people. And I usually take this as an example, like if you were early into Facebook, how much did you get in return for being one of the earliest into Facebook? The earliest people were the ones that built the network. They brought in new friends because it was in their incentive to have more and more friends, everyone. How much revenue have landed in the pockets of the early people? 0. And this is, I would say, this is the most interesting points of a DePIN project. Essentially, we're doing the same thing. Every company needs to bring in more people. We need to bring in more builders. But doing it with token incentives, we are able to incentivize the people that actually are the early adopters. That's the cool thing. There are literally hundreds of DePIN projects. I won't be able to speak about them all, but I will just show a couple of them, which I think is noteworthy. I think these are actually doing cool things. That doesn't mean that if you don't see another project which you believe in, I just picked a couple. Helium, there is a reason why I speak very fondly of Helium. I'm going to explain that in a couple of slides. But HiveMapper is one interesting project. You install a dash cam in your camera, in your car, dash cam camera in your car, and you share that data. And there is actually loads of demand from companies that wants to have up-to-date photos of the road infrastructure. If you're a transportation company, you might want to have the very, very recent updates on how the roads actually look, because you want to be able to make better predictions. They incentivize people driving around with tokens. They have a demand side, and they're able to link this. And they also have a nice dash cam. Demo is another project which I also think is super interesting. I'm using this myself. If you have a car that is already connected, you can just go in, download the Demo app. They have made the UX very good, and you get token incentives just for driving your car. And that's kind of cool, is that the car could be an asset that actually makes you a little bit of money. Probably won't be the amount, probably you need to pay for fuel, and it won't exceed that amount. But the data from your car is worth a lot in the same way. Insurance companies are willing to buy this, and aggregating loads of data from different manufacturers can make the service better, and loads of ways of monetizing this data. This is Demo. Helium, they build IoT and they build mobile networks, and I would say the first IoT project. This is a picture from Super Team. I think this is 1 or 2 months old, so it might have changed, and also it's focused on the Solana ecosystem. I'm in the Solana ecosystem, so it's no surprise that I show this picture. But what I'm saying is that there are loads of projects in this area of DePIN. And I'm just going to show a couple of pictures where it started. I myself started in DePIN. We have been building 2.5 years a company called Sourceful, and we are a team of 6 people, 7 actually at the moment, located in Sweden. But how it all started is that we started, a couple of guys, deploying helium hotspots. This was 2021. And it's not that easy to see, but this is supposed to be the southeast part of Sweden. It's a city called Kalmar. That's where I'm from. And the hexagons you see here is the mapping data. And this is a tweet 2021 from CEO of Helium. And we were quite early in starting to build a network and mapping. It was really good profit at that time. As all in crypto, if you're early in and building the network, you could make actually a reasonable return on your investment in a short period of time. So we started building this, and this is me standing on a high chimney. It's about, in yards, I would say, maybe 60 yards high or something like that. And this is just a way of explaining what these kind of incentives does with people. And I think there are a couple of people here that know these kind of incentives, how they work. And the power of getting people to go the extra mile, installing, climbing roofs, installing antennas, learning about IT, that's a very, very powerful force. And that force, you want to tap into that force and build your company around that, incentivizing the people. And I would say this is the spirit of DePIN, and this is a picture which I believe sort of explains it very well where we came from. And now to another challenge. And now we're skipping the wireless and going on to a challenge that we are working with. And I would say that this is one of the largest challenges that we have today. And it's not specifically climate change. Obviously, it's linked to climate change, but it's about the energy system. And there are lots of things that are happening in the energy system. Like you could be left wing, you could be right wing. It's not about politics anymore. Things are happening just by the scale of economics. That's the interesting thing now. And what we see is that solar PV is getting dirt cheap. It's still, I would say, more expensive than it should be for a homeowner to install solar. But if you actually look at like what are you actually paying, it's labor cost. But the manufacturing cost for solar PV it's declined, and it's going to go to rock dirt cheap bottom very soon. The same we see with batteries. And this is economies of scale. It's a fantastic world we live in. Like the things that, you look at Texas, for instance, a state where they love their cars and their fossil fuel, and they are probably more right-wing than left-wing, and maybe some US people here. Still, they are investing loads in renewable power. It's one of the states where they actually go like on the forefront because it's just economics. It just makes sense. People want to make money. This is what I believe is a good thing because we don't even need to bring in politics. It's just markets. What we see now is that solar PV is likely going to be the king of electricity. There was a recent article from the Forbes, The Economist, I mean, just a month ago. They predicted and made some bold predictions on the trends that we see now, that all the world's electricity will be produced by solar PV by 2030. That's like 6 years from now. Yeah, it's a prediction, and like a little bit of S-curves and so, it might not be true, but the trends are very clear. We're just in the beginning of something. And if we look at the data from IEA, the International Energy Agency, we see that the distributed part of solar energy, because that's the interesting thing. When we talk about renewable power, I have 6 minutes left, so I'm going to speak fast. When we talk about renewable power, the interesting thing here is that this technology is by itself a distributed technology. Of course, utility companies can put up these big solar farms and so, but the majority of the solar installations are done at people's homes, rooftop installations. That's the cool thing. We are actually making people more independent. And by doing that, wouldn't it make sense to also utilize some kind of decentralized approach for rewarding the people that are doing the decentralized energy production? Of course. So that's where we're working. And if we look at Europe, it's like we're looking at a very big trend in Germany, which is on the forefront, Netherlands as well. It's over 3 million individual PV installations just in Germany. Loads of them. Okay, this sounds like a really good thing. Yeah, sort of. Because loads of solar in the system is not good for the system. It's like each and every solar installation is doing its own thing. They are not collaborating. When the sun is shining, they're just pushing power to the grid and they don't care about the grid itself. Everyone is sort of an egoist in that way. So we need to connect them. And it's not hard. If we can connect them and make them communicate, we can monetize that. It's in everyone's interest, in the state interest, in the utility company's interest, in the homeowner's interest, because you will get rewarded. This is what's called a virtual power plant. This is a picture from the grid in California, but it looks the same in Sweden, in Germany, and in other countries. You have negative prices during midday because of solar. Yeah, negative prices might sound very sweet if you're driving an EV, but it's actually not very good for the system. It's not good to have unpredictable power. No one wants that. And the same thing also is that we still pay more and more on our utility bills. Even the power production is actually getting cheaper. And that's because the cost of transmission is getting higher and higher because we didn't invest as much as we should in the system. Decentralized power is actually also part of the solution. If you can produce power nearer to where it's used, it's good. And this is also that we can see the trend last 10 or 14 years is that the actual energy, the power production, is getting cheaper. Still, like the general, I would say, the general person might think that they are paying more and more on their energy bills, and that's true. It's not because the energy is more expensive. It's because of the utility companies that charge more and more for the transmission. And this is a picture from US, but it applies also generally in the European Union as well. Let's see. And we have 3 minutes left. Yeah. We have loads of small resources, and this is where the DePIN project comes in. What we're doing at Sourceful is essentially connecting solar and batteries. That's what we do. We are the connectivity layer. We reward people with tokens for connecting your inverter or battery. That's it. And how do you do this? Because there are so many different models, the same as Demo is doing. I mean, there are a couple of different car models around here, but they still want to gather all the data. Yeah, you will need more hardware. So you need a gateway. You will need that. And you will also need a community. You will need people that actually go a little bit of the extra mile and are willing to build this and tell other people. So that's why we are doing the transition to helium, and this is quite news, so we haven't been public very long with this. But helium, as I started with, which is, I believe, the original DePIN project, and Abhay, which is the CEO of Helium Foundation, tweeted this just a week or two ago, and the PIN. It's a little bit of a joke, but anyhow, helium is transitioning over to become the network of networks and are trying to be the network of DePINs, like the launch pad for DePINs. So we had a discussion with them for quite some time, and we have now taken the opportunity to launch our network within the helium ecosystem. So Sourceful will actually transition to be helium energy. And then helium has IoT, mobile, and energy. A couple of, I would say, the core infrastructure layers that society needs. So it makes sense. So this is what we're doing, and we are going to utilize all the existing hardware that's already out there. We have about 300,000 active hotspots today, almost 1 million that has been deployed in some sense. And we are able to do dual mining and utilize the same hardware, so it makes total sense from the business perspective and tap into this community. If you want to learn more, we have a Helium improvement proposal that is up live on the Helium GitHub website. As Helium is an autonomous organization, and the HNT token is the token that you actually vote. If you want to vote, if you own HNT, please do. We're going to open this for a vote in 1 week. If you're an HNT holder, and I should probably never speculate in values, but let's not speculate anything, just say that this will bring more demand into the HNT ecosystem. So it makes sense for the current people in the ecosystem. So if you're into this, please, you could vote no as well. It doesn't make sense for everyone. That's at the 0 mark, almost perfectly aligned.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we should clap.